I think, in my opinion, looks like this is the first batch of the policies. And in the meantime, we do see that this is a joint kind of effort from Chinese authorities. We can see something from Ministry of Defense. We can see something from PBOC, and we see something from the security regulator and also banking regulator. So I think, basically we are seeing that, China is doing whatever they can do to help the economy to engage in order to hedge against headwinds from tariffs. We know that, the talk will be come somehow, long and difficult between China and the U.S. So from this kind of perspective, I would say that, China, this is the first effort, China has done, and there will be more to come, especially if we see a significant impact from tariffs on the exports as well as the tariffs impact on the job market. So I think in this case, I think more can be expected, and in the meantime, basically China will have to still wait to see the real impact of the tariff in the next few months.
We'll continue to talk about the economy, but at first I want to ask you about these trade talks that are going to be taking place in Switzerland at the weekend. Of course, there's a lot of positioning right now ahead of that. We heard about this interdepartmental press conference that was going to be announced yesterday, 9 o'clock, with the slew of measures, of course, that have been delivered. But then that was just shortly after the U.S. had confirmed that we would have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and USTR Jameson Greer meeting with that of Vice Premier He Lifeng in Switzerland. In terms of the positioning going into the talks, how do things stand?
Well, to be honest, I don't really know kind of what will really happen in the next few days. Because it looks like, if we read headlines from both China and the U.S., they are talking out different languages for now. Sometimes, we see that, they're going to talk, and sometimes, they say, okay, there's kind of presetting kind of topics before they go into the real talk. So basically, what we have seen here is that, and if we talk to investors here in Hong Kong, basically people generally think that the talk will be take very long time, and maybe probably in the U.S. we'll set some other kind of examples for China, especially today, like Donald Trump said that he will announce a big deal soon. I think for the U.S. also maybe the talk is important, but whether there will be a real solid kind of result, that will depending on a lot of things, especially whether the tariffs will impact the inflation in the United States in the next few quarters. I think in this case the talk will be, as I mentioned earlier, will be difficult, and the talk is necessary, and also the retaliation and a lot of things will be also happening during the talk.
Is it important who actually reached out first? Because we've heard from the U.S. side, President Trump saying that China reached out. China, for their part, saying that action speaks louder than words. So going into this weekend, who do you think is positioned stronger?
Well, I think it's also a difficult topic for now. I think, basically for both sides, for China, we are going to see export number tomorrow. I think this important thing is that whether the exports will be still holding up. I think it looks like for now still okay because a lot of from loading effect. And also we can see that the numbers from the South Korea looks okay. Also, the export numbers looks okay in the South Korea side. For the U.S., the most important thing, I think, on one hand, is the inflation. We are going to see inflation numbers next week. And also, the other thing is that, whether there will be kind of continued kind of pressure on the capital markets if there's kind of no good result from the talks. So I think, maybe in the first sense, for both sides, the most important thing is that who reach out first. But the second, or the real talk, when the real talks, starts, I think the most important thing will be, fundamentally speaking, who will be the one be impacted further or bigger in terms of the trade war and in terms of tariff war.
You bring up the trade numbers that we are going to be waiting out for. We've also heard Q1 GDP in China up 5.4%. So it hasn't been really seen in the numbers just yet. When do you expect that to happen?
I think, for me, is that, the exports actually is the important part of the economy, but not the important part for GDP. because if we look at exports, basically we can see that this is kind of related to a lot of jobs, related to imports, related to many kind of sectors. This is important. But if you look at GDP numbers, I think less than 1% actually from the net export side, and considering that China will definitely hedge against these kind of headwinds via consumption kind of subsidy and physical spending. We are also expecting that probably China will raise its physical deficit by another kind of 0.5 percentage point in the second half of this year if the economy really goes through in a difficult kind of path. So put everything together, I think the exports is the front to see the impact of tariff. But exports is not the most important indicator for GDP numbers. I think the GDP will still around 5 or slightly below 5 for this year, given that China already sends out very strong signal that they will try their best to boost and subsidize the economy and the consumption going forward.